Hello, this is Catherine from Accelerated Reader Reading Books for You. Today I will be reading one of the fables from Sophia's Fables for Younger Generations, which is a collection of animal stories where animals act like humans in their thoughts. It also reflects how some of these stories would have been told to children in Nigeria 60 years ago. Sophia's Fables for Younger Generations is written by Olusola Sophia Anyanwu. And before I begin reading, I would like to give a big thanks to the author for sending me this book to read on my channel. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ted the Human Dog. Ted was a 1-month-old pup when she started living with Miss Williams. Miss Williams was a spinster. She lived alone, herself with Ted in a neat little cottage. Because Ted was still very young and tender, she brought her up like a human baby. She made a little cot for Ted and brought some baby clothes for her too. She fed Ted 5 times a day with a saucer of milk and mashed eggs. Also, she gave Ted a warm bath every morning. Ted was the sole object of adoration for Miss Williams because she had nothing else to devote her attention to. As Ted grew older, she thought she was a human being. She understood Miss Williams whenever she was spoken to, but she could not understand why Miss Williams did not understand her all the time. She also wondered why she could not behave, talk, and do things like Miss Williams did. Every day, Miss Williams and Ted ate together, played together, and strolled out together in the evenings. When they did not stroll out in the evenings, they played games. "Ted!" Miss Williams would shout. "Go after the ball." "Oh, sure I will," Ted would reply excitedly. After the games or the strolling, they would go back together to the house. "Mom, can I have some water and cakes there, please?" Ted would ask. Many times she had to repeat herself to Miss Williams before she was understood. She wondered why too. Sometimes Ted was lucky. Miss Williams would understand her perfectly well. "Teddy girl," Miss Williams called. "Come, sweetie, have some water and cake." And so Ted and Miss Williams got on well together. Almost everybody was jealous of them, people and animals alike. Ted was now a year old. She looked like a wild forest animal. When people and other dogs saw her, they panicked and ran away. Most people called her police dog. In most people's opinion, any big dog that looks uncommon must be a police dog. Ted was tall, big, graceful, and beautiful. Her coat was a mixture of brown and black stripes. She had a long snout, drooping ears, and large, brown, expressive eyes. The same year Teddy was 1, in 1983, Miss Williams got married to Mr. Sunshine. Then also a little baby boy was added to the Sunshine family. In addition, 2 house helps came to live with the family to help with the house chores. Miss Williams' attention became divided, and Ted was no longer the center of attraction to her. Ted noticed all the changes. She realized that Mr. Sunshine and the 2 house helps, who were girls, did not appreciate dogs. It was with their coming into the household that Ted realized that she was a dog. Miss Williams had never called her a dog. She either called her by her pet name or other pet names, such as Teddy Girl, Sweetie, Pet, or Princess. Ted sat down one afternoon feeling very sorry for herself. What can I do to win Mother's affection for me again? She thought. She plays with the baby boy all day, attends to her visitors, and hardly has time for me at all. I have not even had my breakfast today. For some weeks now, I have been given the leftovers to eat. Mother hardly talked to me yesterday. She has not bathed me for months. What really is happening? As these conditions continued, Ted became lean. Ted remembered the good old days when she had cause not to eat due to illness or didn't like the food. Miss Williams would fuss about it. She would carry Ted and try to feed her. At times, she would give Ted something else to eat. These days were different. Ted ate once a day, and it was usually the leftover of whatever meal was eaten. When Ted was a year and a half old, she had 3 puppies. Miss Williams and everyone in the house were excited. All the attention was drawn over to her again. But this did not last long. Mr. Sunshine could not stand Ted and her pups. He felt it would be too expensive to keep and maintain them all. When the puppies were about 2 months old, they were all given out. Ted became lonely again. She tried to seek Miss Williams' company, but it was impossible. Miss Williams' days were always busy. She had to feed and take care of the family. She had to go to the market, cook the meals, and do her office work. When Ted was 2 years old, she had another set of puppies. They were 7 in number. She was made to have her pups outside the house this time rather than in the guest room. Ted developed a sad look, and she kept her distance from Miss Williams. This was because it looked like she was easily irritated. She also had a big belly. Ted was hopeful. Each time she said to herself, Mr. Sunshine, Gloria, Nikaru, and Frankie would soon all go away. But it wasn't so. Instead, Miss Williams had another baby, a girl called Iffy. The days went on steadily into weeks. The weeks went into months, and the months into years. Ted was gradually becoming used to the new attitude of Miss Williams. She had 3 sets of pups that had all been sold off or done away with. She had met other dogs who had told her that she was a dog like them. Yet she was hopeful that one day Miss Williams would remember her again as her own true pet. Ted used to tell her pups about her early childhood with Miss Williams. Oh, my children, I feel sorry for you all. Life was not like this before. Do not be angry with Miss Williams. I know how you feel. She kicks you about because you mess up the compound and spoil her flowers. Oh, Mum, how we hate her. She is so wicked and she can hardly feed us well, protested her youngest. Children, have patience with her. Give her time. When I was your age, I slept on a bed beside her. She used to carry me about and teach me songs and games. When I messed up the house, she would clean it up without scolding me. When I destroyed her flowers, she would laugh it off. Oh, I remember those good old days. She would go to the shops and buy me corned beef and some nice tinned foods. At least I had a golden childhood and amazing memories to fall on. Let us have patience with her, my dear children. The pups listened to their mother. They thought she was going crazy. They even told her she was telling them lies. Mum, we don't know why you love Miss Williams so much. Why do you have to tell us lies so that we can love her? Ted smiled to herself. She knew her children could never believe or understand the kind of relationship between Miss Williams and herself. Ted's hopes and dreams never came true. Her children were once again taken from her. She cried to Miss Williams, who, to Ted, pretended not to understand. Please, my mother, do not take my children away from me, cried Ted to her mother. They keep me company and make me happy. You know, you don't have any time for me these days. Please, mother, please. But Ted's kids were all taken away from her like the other 4 sets. By the time Ted was about 6 years old, Miss Williams had become very confused and fed up with Ted. She was angry that Ted could not understand that things had changed. She was upset, too, that Ted still thought she was a human being rather than a dog. Several times, Miss Williams would tell Ted, "Ted, my pet, can't you understand? I now have a family. Life and things are expensive. I can't afford to treat you as before. Also, Ted, I have my personal problems. Please stop getting moody. It upsets me and makes me feel guilty." But Ted would not listen. She continued to get moody and ignored her food. She also dug deep holes in the sand where she half buried herself. By now, too, Miss Williams' 2 kids were young toddlers. They jumped on Ted's back and tried to ride her like a horse. They pulled her ears and her tail. They loved Ted so much that they allowed her to lick them all over their faces and bodies. Ted loved them too. They were like her pups. Another thing that upset Miss Williams about Ted was the fleas, lice, and ticks. No matter how often Ted was bathed, she always had them. This was because Ted had a dirty habit of always burying her body in the sand. This way, she got germs into her body. Over the years, Mr. Sunshine and the rest of the household had tried to tolerate Ted and her skin problems. There were lice and ticks crawling about all over the house, in the parlor, bedrooms, garage, and kitchen. During one holiday, Miss Williams noticed that both her kids had a lot of swellings from a very terrible skin disease. First of all, the 2 kids had a lot of swollen rashes around their fingers, ears, navel, and bottoms. This itched the kids a lot, and they sometimes cried in pain. Then the swollen rashes turned into blisters. Miss Williams was told that the itch mite had bitten her children. "Do you keep dogs or cats?" the doctor had asked. Miss Williams and her husband felt ashamed and guilty. Miss Williams felt sorry for her kids, who suffered a great deal when bathing in hot water with Dettol. They were also rubbed with an ointment, which caused them pain, as well as some bitter drugs to swallow 3 times a day till the disease was gone. Miss Williams became all the more confused. She asked herself several times, my kid's good health or Ted? She had a soft spot for Ted because she had had her ever since she was a pup of 1 month old. However, she knew that as long as Ted had those dirty habits, there would always be lice and ticks crawling about the home. This also meant her kids getting infected and suffering from skin diseases. Miss Williams knew the time had now come to decide where her loyalty really stood, Ted or the kids. Mr. Sunshine, Miss Williams' husband, seized his opportunity to get rid of Ted. He knew that if he did not act on time, Miss Williams' soft spot and love for Ted might make her decide that Ted had to stay. Of course, Miss Williams would defend herself by saying that Ted could be kept on chains or other excuses. The two kids still had their skin problems severe on them. As a result, they were prevented from going to school and mixing with other kids. Miss Williams herself was still feeling depressed and confused about the implication of the whole situation. On a Saturday, Mr. Sunshine put Ted inside his car and drove off to his village. He returned on Sunday without Ted. The end. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book.